Hey folks, today we're going to talk about combining Google Cloud Armor with serverless applications to add an extra layer of security. With this, we can provide web application firewall functionality on top of our Cloud Run, our App Engine, and our Cloud Function applications, and use predefined rules to immediately start protecting against things like cross-site scripting and SQL injection attacks. Cloud Armor as a product has been available for some time, and you could easily add it to your non-serverless applications by simply attaching it to your Google Cloud load balancers. But now, with the introduction of serverless network endpoint groups, which allow us to run our Cloud Run, App Engine, and Cloud Function applications with a load balancer as well, we can take advantage of Cloud Armor for them too. So, we're going to walk through the setup process of Cloud Armor with serverless applications by setting up a simple Hello World application with App Engine and running it with some basic policies. To make deploying an App Engine app straightforward, let's use one of the code labs we have. So first, we'll create a new project, and we'll do all of our work in this new project here. But again, we're going to use a Google Code Lab. So if you haven't seen this site before, codelabs.developers.google.com. There are a lot of really great guided tutorials, and we're doing lots of different things within Google Cloud, whether that's Cloud Run, Cloud SQL, App Engine, all the way to Firebase, even to things outside of Google Cloud like Android and so on. That are really easy to follow and give you lots of really great hands-on coding experience with these tools. For this particular demonstration, what we're going to do is we're going to use the deploy Node.JS Express application in App Engine, primarily because I'm a Node.js fan and it's really easy to follow along. If you want to follow this code lab, URL is up here, and I will also put the URL in the video description below as well. So if we go back to our Google Cloud project, what we're going to do is we're basically just going to follow these steps one by one. So we've already done a lot of this prereqs already. So we're going to go ahead and go straight to getting the source code. So all we have to do is copy and paste this code into Cloud Shell. It will clone that repository straight into our Cloud Shell environment for us and put us in the directory we need to go. Then we'll just go ahead and do an npm install to get all the dependencies there. And while that's running, we'll skip this part. We know the application is going to work, but you could run this within the Cloud Shell preview if you wanted to see it running locally. But we're just going to go ahead and deploy it to App Engine directly. So all we have to do is, once this is finished installing, we will do a simple gcloud app deploy. And it's going to ask us what region we want to put it in, and we're going to choose US Central. And it's going to take a little bit of time to create that first App Engine application in the project because this is a brand new project, and deploy that new service out. Once that's done, we basically have our application running. And there's more steps to this, from updating the application and doing some additional previews and new pushes, but we're going to skip that for now because we don't really necessarily need to do that for this demonstration purpose. Awesome. Now that our application is deployed very simply with App Engine, we can view that application that will basically tell us, hello world. Cool. So our App Engine application is running. Very simple, very straightforward. What we're now going to do is set up a serverless network endpoint group and load balancer in front of this App Engine application. To start with, let's do some prep work that will make things a little bit smoother. In this example, I'm going to use Google managed SSL certificates. And to make things a little bit simpler with these types of certificates, I like to set up the external IP and DNS first. If you're using your own SSL certificate or you're doing this in a brownfield environment, your step order may change, but all this is easily defined within the documentation. So we're going to navigate to our external IP addresses page, which is under our VPC network section, and we're going to go ahead and reserve an external IP. We're going to give it the name www/ssl/cert and make sure it's a global type, and then reserve it. And now that we have this external IP address and it has been provisioned, I can now take that IP address and configure my DNS for my domain to point to that address. What this does is that it makes the verification process when the SSL certificate provisions a little bit faster because it's already set up, DNS is already going to propagate to that IP, and everything is going to be validated and make things just a little bit more simple. Now that DNS has been set up and we've given it some time to propagate, we can confirm it is set up properly by doing a simple host command within Cloud Shell and verifying that the address matches the host name that we created. Once that is done and verified, we can now continue with our setting up our serverless network endpoint group, and we can scroll down to our documentation. We have already reserved an external IP address, but we are going to create an SSL certificate resource. We are going to use a Google managed SSL cert, so we're going to go to that documentation. We're going to scroll down and get the command to create that. We're going to name it www.ssl cert. And the domain here does need to match the domain DNS that you created before. And we can take that command and put it into Cloud Shell. And that SSL cert will stay in provisioning mode until we actually attach it to a load balancer. So we're going to do that next. Now, back within our setting up serverless network endpoint groups documentation, we have created our SSL certificate resource. We've already reserved an external IP, so now we're going to create the external HTTPS load balancer. So we're going to copy and paste most of these gcloud commands directly, except for the first one we're going to change to an App Engine service. So we're going to take that command and modify it. And we're going to change Cloud Run to App Engine. And we're going to change Hello World to default because we named that, we just deployed straight to the App Engine default service. So now that we have that new command, we can close out of that, paste that in, and it will create that network endpoint group. Now we go back to our documentation. And we're going to create the backend service itself, copy that, paste that in, go back to the documentation again, copy the next command, paste that in, and then we're going to create the URL map itself. We've already created the SSL certs, so we can skip this step. But now we're going to create the target HTTPS proxy. One slight difference in the next couple commands is we are going to change one setting on the global forwarding rule. We can copy that, paste that in. This last one, we named our address something slightly differently, so we're going to copy that, modify it. Instead of example IP, we actually named ours www.ssl cert as well. So we're going to take that and copy that, paste it, and it will create that. Now the load balancer should be complete. Now that the load balancer has been created, we can view it back within our console under our networking services and then our load balancing section. One issue folks run into now is that they do not give time for the SSL certificate to finish provisioning. You do want to give up to even 30 minutes to allow that SSL cert to finish if you're using a Google managed SSL cert. One thing you can do to check on the status of that is if we go back to our Google managed SSL cert docs, you can see checking the status. If you copy this describe command and paste this into Cloud Shell, what you're going to be looking for is for active. Once that is done, the SSL cert is configured and your load balancer is successful. Now we can try navigating to our App Engine site through our domain name, which goes through our load balancer. And that successfully gets us back to our hello world. Now that the load balancer is working properly to our App Engine service, we can go ahead and create our Cloud Armor policy. So we can navigate into Network Security, then Cloud Armor, and create a policy. We will create a test policy that by default allows everyone in, but we'll add a rule, go into advanced mode, and we'll use the predefined SQL injection rule to deny if that is hit. We could make this so this is only a preview, so it will log it in cloud logging as opposed to actually taking the action, but we'll go ahead and take action here. And we'll give it a priority of 1000. Then under applying to targets, we're going to select our backend service that we created that connects to our serverless network endpoint group. Then we will create the policy. Now the policy is created and is attached to our load balancer and is protecting our App Engine service. So now we've created our App Engine application, we've created our SSL certs, our external IP addresses, we've created our serverless network endpoint groups, our load balancer, and we've attached our Cloud Armor policy to it. All very quickly, we've been able to easily add web application firewall functionality to our serverless apps very simply, and now we get things like SQL injection protection, cross-site scripting protection, DDoS protection, and you have the ability to write your own custom rules as well in addition to the predefined rules that were already created. So opens up a whole world of security to your serverless applications as well. Cloud Armor itself is generally available and has been around for quite some time very successfully. I will highlight that as of the current recording of this video in September 2020, the serverless network endpoint groups themselves are in beta. So there are some limitations, so I will recommend you review those and understand what they are prior to going into production with it. But I think this is an excellent way, again, to add a tremendous amount of security value to your serverless applications, whether App Engine, Cloud Run, or Cloud Functions.